Hello and welcome to another Mango Manger math movie film where you get to play the therapist and solve all of math's problems. Today we're going to be talking about lesson 2.3, graphing equations in slope-intercept form on page 64 in your book. So turn there and we'll get started right away. We have a couple of terms that we need to know. Those couple terms, before we get started, are x-intercept and y-intercept. In order to understand what these are, let's do a quick review. First of all, we know that we have the x-axis right here. That's going across. Let me do that in yellow to remain consistent. The x-axis goes across and the y-axis goes up and down. Y right here, x over here. Now we'll start with the x-intercept. All the x-intercept is where a line crosses the x-axis. So here I've drawn a squiggly red line. And the x-intercept of this line is where it crosses the x-axis. So let's look at the red line and identify where it crosses the x-axis. It crosses that x-axis at the point 6 on the x-axis. So the x-intercept, there's a lot of x's here, the x-intercept of this line is 6. The point being 6, 0, because you go 6 to the right and you go 0 up or down. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, being right here, because the line is crossing this axis, the y-axis, at this point, which you can't see, but is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the y-intercept of this red line is 5. Or you would go over 0 to the right or left, and you would go up 5. So just to recap, the x-intercept is where a line crosses the x-axis. And the y-intercept is where a line crosses the y-axis. Alright, so the next word that we need to know and get really familiar with is slope-intercept form. Get used to seeing this because you're going to see this a bunch as you move throughout not only this year, but your high school years as well. Y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. You'll be able to do this in your sleep by the time you're done with it. Okay? So if you see an equation that looks like this, y equals mx plus b, it's in slope-intercept form. Okay? Now what we have is different variables mean different things. Especially the m. Notice I put the m in green. M is the slope of a line. Okay? M is the slope of the line. And examples we'll see throughout as we go. You might have, 3 over 2. Remember, slope is rise over run. So for this example of the line, you'd go up 3 to the right 2. You might also have slope that just looks like this, 4. And you know that there's a 1 underneath that. And so for the slope of this line, you would go up 4 and to the right 1. Rise over run for your slope. The B, what I have in red, the B is the y-intercept of this line. Again, that tells us where this line is going to cross the y-axis. So we can look at this part right here And we can tell where this line is going to cross the y-axis. So if we had a b of, let's say, plus 2, we know that this line crosses the y-axis at positive 2. If it's a negative 4 in this spot, we know that this example line would cross the y-axis at negative 4. I know this is a lot of words, so let's try to do an example and see if we can identify the different parts. This is example number 1, starting off nice and easy, and all this directions wants you to do is to find the slope and the y-intercept and the graph of the linear equation. So first thing, let's look and see if this is in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, here's the y equals, our m is negative 4, it's right next to the x, and then we have a minus 2. If that confuses you, you can rewrite it. Y equals a negative 4, which is our m, and then you can do plus a negative 2, or you can leave it like it is on the top. You're just adding a negative 2. So y equals a negative 4x plus a negative 2. This is y equals mx plus b. Negative 4 is in our m position of slope-intercept form. And do you remember what m is? M is the slope. So our slope of this line is a negative 4. The y-intercept of this line is negative 2. Simple as that. Here's another example though, but you'll notice something different about it. Is this in y equals mx plus b? Is this slope-intercept form? Quick reminder, y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. You should be able to see right away that this isn't in slope-intercept form, is it? Because it's y minus 5 equals 3 over 2x. But we can get it in slope-intercept form by simply moving things around a little bit. What I'll need to do is I'll need to add 5 to both sides. So I'm going to add 5 to this side and add 5 to this side and rewrite it. I have nothing left on the left side besides the y. And then I have 3 halves x plus 5. Now these two look more familiar. Y equals mx plus b. So now I can identify the slope and the y-intercept a lot easier. The slope is whatever is in the m position, in this case 3 over 2. So the slope of this line is 3 over 2. Meaning when we graph this, you would go up 3 and over 2, and every point of going up 3 and over 2 would be on this line. We'll show you that in the next example. The y-intercept, where this line crosses the y-axis, is 5. And then we're done. Not too bad. Here's a couple for you to try on your own. I want to see if you can figure these out. Once again, you're trying to find the slope and you're trying to find the y-intercept. So pause the video for a couple minutes, see if you figure it out, and then on pause when you're ready for the answers. Alright, the top one we don't have to do anything with. It's already in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, our slope for this one is 3. This is the m right there. And our y-intercept is negative 7. Slope is 3. Y-intercept is negative 7. The second one, or the bottom one, where it's not in slope-intercept form, is it? So you had to rearrange some things in order to get it there. you need to add 1 to both sides. And when you do that, you'll get y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 1. On this one, your slope is going to be a negative 2, 3. And your y-intercept is a positive 1. So slope, one more time, is negative 2, 3. And your y-intercept is a positive 1. Alright, so here's example number 2. And in example number 2, we're actually going to put a line on a graph from an equation that's in slope-intercept form. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the y-intercept. The y-intercept I can find by looking at what's in the b position in my equation, and I see that in the b position is the plus 3. So I know that this line is going to cross the y-axis at a positive 3. So I'm going to go up 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put a point at positive 3, because that's the y-intercept. Now the second thing is to find the slope. Remember, to find the slope, you're going to look at what's next to the x. And I look at it, and I see that next to the x in the m position is a negative 3. So I put a negative 3. We know that if there's nothing on the bottom of our slope, that we just can put it over 1 and it's going to be the same thing. Recall that slope is rise over run. I don't have a second point yet, so I can't draw a line, but I'm going to get it very easily by using my y-intercept and my slope. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start at my y-intercept, and then I'm going to count out my slope. So this is rise over run. What my slope is telling me to do is to rise negative 3, or to go down 3, and move to the right 1 position. So what it's telling me to do is start here, go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1 position. When you do that, that's where your second dot is going to go. And you could do it again to give yourself a third dot to help your line be a little straighter if you wanted to. You could again go down 3. So from this point this time, 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. And your next point would go at the intersection of 2, negative 3. Right there. Once you have that, your last step is to connect all your points. Ooh, with a straighter line than that. Let me try again. With a straight line. And of course yours will be a lot better because you'll be on pen and paper. You'll have a ruler. It'll look a lot better. But then you're done. If you want to give yourself a little check to see if you're right, if you have a negative slope, which we do, negative 3, your line that you create should be going down from left to right, which we are. From left to right, our line is going down and we have a negative slope. So we know we have that at least correct. If you were to graph a line, and let's say your line was going up like this blue one here is, and you have a negative slope, it should be a red flag that you did something wrong. Because a negative slope needs to go down from left to right. If you have a negative slope and your line is going up from left to right, then you did something wrong. So that is no good. Right? This is the correct graph. Here's one for you to try on your own. Pause the video, identify the y-intercept, get the slope, and then plot the 2 points, draw it, connect them with the line, and you'll be good to go. Alright, so what you should do is the first thing is you should find the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is 1. So what we need to do is we need to plot a point at 1 on our y-axis, and our slope is -1 over 2, or down 1 over 2. So down 1 over 2. We could continue that. Down 1 over 2. Okay? Now you might be asking yourself, or you might be asking maybe in your head, maybe you're not. You know, I had my slope as -1 over 2, which is fine. But what if you had your slope as 1 over -2? Fair enough. Let's just say you did. They're the same thing. Here's why. Let's say we started here at our y-intercept +1. And let's say you chose this as your slope. This as your slope is saying what? Go up 1, and your run is negative, so that means to the left 2. So up 1, to the left 2. Up 1, to the left 2, right there. Up 1, to the left 2. See how it's still on the same line? It doesn't matter which way you do it. You can assign the negative to the numerator or to the denominator. It just can't be both. Okay? Your last thing to do is to connect these with a line, and you will have graphed this equation that's in slope-intercept form. If I want to check myself, just a really quick check, my graph is going down from left to right, and I have a negative slope, so I know I at least did that right. And I have a y-intercept of 1, so my line should be going through the y-axis at 1, which it is. So chances are, as long as I did my counting right, that I've done this problem correctly. And that will bring us to the joke of the day, which is, how do you make a tissue dance? You put a little boogie in it. Oh, these are so corny, aren't they? Anyway, guys, I hope you learned something. We'll see you next time, and remember that God loves you.